today we will be trying out a new to me brand, but I feel like this brand has been a classic in the beauty industry, so I was just really curious to try them out. This brand is Surratt. If you've tried them before you watch this video, let me know below in the comments if you have a favorite product from them, but I have a full face of goodies here to try out. It's gonna be first impression, so super fun, and I'm just excited to dive in. So they did go ahead and send over 2 skincare items, one of them being their cleansing oil, which we won't be using today because I already have my skin prepped, but they did also send this mist. Their packaging is really beautiful, by the way. It all has this sort of like very pretty, I don't know what you call this, like color shift type of packaging. Actually, before we get started, let me just give you a brief overview of the brand in case you're curious. So it's a sophisticated, superior quality makeup brand that delivers uncomplicated pro-level results. So they combine a Japanese approach to design and craftsmanship with New York raw sensibility. So it says it puts artistry at everyone's fingertips, pros and non-pros alike. Fueled by an eye for ingenious innovation, superior formulations, and exquisite beauty, they draw on textures, technique, and technology for an elevated experience. That was sort of my first impression of the packaging and just the look of everything. Like, it feels very pro makeup brand that everyone can use. But back to our first product here, which is their facial mist. You can use this on its own just to be hydrating. It said you could also use it to set makeup, so I'll be doing both before and after makeup, so let's try this out. Okay, first off, it has a really nice mister. It wasn't too like dramatic, so it should be nice for setting makeup. It seems to have like a slightly, like, it's not as thin as water. I can tell there's some viscosity to it, which is nice to tell that it's hydrating. It doesn't really like have much of a scent to it, like it doesn't seem scented, which I love. Next we have their primers. So this is what their boxes look like, very subtle and glam. So this is the Perfectionist primer. Again, the packaging is so pretty. I believe this is a pump. I'm not sure if this is going to be mattifying or sort of just in the middle. Okay, so it's this really thin, milky consistency. So it seems like it's going to be a little bit more on the hydrating side. It actually has a really interesting texture. It's milky and hydrating at first, but can you tell what it did to my face? Like, it has this really smoothing effect. That was really interesting. Oh, and it's tacky. Okay, it was definitely like a little bit mattifying and smoothing, and now it's a little bit tacky. Very interesting. Sometimes I feel like primers just don't really do anything, so to have this one do a bunch of things at once, I'm very curious to see how it's going to perform under their foundation that we will be trying, which is their Dewdrop foundations. I have 2 shades to swatch for you today. So I believe one of them is 1.5 and the other is 2. So this one is 1.5. This packaging is really interesting. So it has this like glass top, and to get it out, you push the bottom. It looks just like the new Ritual de Fille foundation, but I feel like it could be like a little bit hard to get the product out, especially if you don't have like good grip like I do. Ow. Okay, I'm not sure how much you're supposed to use. This was supposed to be just a swatch anyway. So here's the shade 1.5, which looks like honestly a perfect match for me. And then we have the shade 2 here, which I think is going to be a little bit warmer. So here's the shade 2. This definitely has more of a peachy tone, where this one's like neutral warm. So I'm definitely going to go with this shade here, which is 1.5. So I'm going to get some more of this out somehow without hurting my hand. I just feel like I wish more came out because it is like hurting my fingers trying to just squeeze this. Can't use my thumb because that hurts even more. I'm gonna start with a little bit and we'll see how far that goes. So I don't know if you're supposed to use a brush or a sponge with this. I'm going to try a sponge first. So we have that primer on, let it sink in a little bit. This is nice and thin feeling, which is great because I love thin foundations. I'm honestly really impressed with this shade because I usually don't have a very good shade match for most foundations, and they sent this to me, so they like shade match me. That's pretty cool. That is like such a good match. That was pretty good coverage. Let's take a closer look. It literally looks like skin. It definitely has more of like a satin matte finish. I don't know if that's because of the primer, but it's definitely not very dewy. It's a skin finish, which I love. It looks like skin. Like, I cannot tell that it is makeup at all. Feels really light, and it is like a pretty good match. There's a slight difference there, but in terms of shade matches, pretty dang close. So I did use all of that product, so I'm gonna have to get some more out. Let's go ahead and do this side of my face. I'm gonna stick with the sponge because it's working well. It also doesn't have like a scent to it, which I like. Okay, I'm usually not immediately impressed by most foundation because I'm so picky, but this, why does this look so good? I feel like in combination with the primer, like my skin looks like so smooth, and it's just like my skin, but like less pigmentation, like less discoloration, I mean. Like my skin but better. I feel like the sponge is probably soaking up a lot of this product. If you wanted to use less product, a brush might be the way to go. I just love the finish a sponge gives. So I'm gonna use a couple more drops for my forehead. So right now it's giving me, I would say, like pretty solid medium coverage. If you wanted less coverage, definitely just use less product. I'm really interested to see if this wears well because I'm really just loving the finish of it. I was totally not expecting this. So I haven't really seen like any reviews. When I try new brands, I usually like to stay pretty neutral and like not watch content about the brand beforehand. Like I've seen videos here and there, but I honestly don't remember. Do people like love this foundation? Now just for testing's sake, let's put on a little bit more just to see if it will build up on itself well. I'm liking how the primer works well with it too. It's really weird when brands make primers that don't even really work with their own foundations. It's bizarre. Okay, that definitely did build up a little bit, just a little bit more coverage on like my spots. The shade match of this and the look of it, I'm loving it so much. I will have to give you guys a close-up. This is such a good like neutral olive tone. When I swatched it, I was like, okay, Surratt with the fair shades. I don't even necessarily feel like I have to blend it on my neck too much because it is matching me relatively well. This also is feeling extremely lightweight. It really doesn't feel like I have foundation on. It also looks like a product that you wouldn't necessarily need to set. I might not even set my foundation. So we will see. Dewdrop foundation. Very interesting. I hope it wears well. Okay, now that we applied it, I'm gonna go ahead and read what it says. It says it's a light to medium coverage foundation that has a dewy, hydrating finish that's ideal for everyday wear. So I think that primer definitely mattified it. Its unique delivery system ensures your complexion receives the optimal amount of coverage every time you apply in 20 shades. Really interesting. This is $75. I mean, it looks beautiful so far. If it wears well, then it might honestly definitely be worth that amount. I also have very sensitive skin, by the way, and I like break out or am sensitive to a lot of ingredients. So far the primer and the foundation, like my skin doesn't feel irritated in any way. So let's move on to the next product, which is called their Torche Lumiere. This is a highlighter. It says it gives a multifaceted glow to the face, richly pigmented luminous shades, and velvety cream formula. I have the gold shade, which is called Dior, D-O-R. You know me and my bad pronunciations. Which is this very pretty gold color. So these are very creamy and pigmented. This might be a little bit dark on me, maybe not if it's blended out. I don't mind a gold as long as it's like a pretty flattering tone. So I actually feel like I should do concealer first. Let's just do a little bit of concealer. This is just the Jouer one. I don't have a concealer from them. I don't usually have the best of luck with applying creams directly to my face, so what I'm going to do is actually take a little bit on my hand, and I'm just going to take a clean end of my sponge and then stipple that on. That way I can get a light wash of color. Okay, so the gold's actually not showing up super strong, which is good, but it is giving that glow. I will say there is like slightly chunkier glitter in here. I wouldn't necessarily call it glitter. It just has a slightly chunkier shimmer, like it's not super undetectable. It's actually applying really well this way. I honestly didn't think I was gonna love this because of the shade, but applied with the sponge, it's looking so pretty, super natural looking, even with that like shinier glitter in it. It's really interesting. It's so reflective, but it is sort of more like a dry matte formula. I think not dry, just a little bit more of a satin feel versus being so glowy, which I don't necessarily like all the time. Okay, Surratt, let's move on. I have yet to try a product that I'm not impressed by. I'm just going to go ahead and set down my under eyes really quick though. So I'm just using the Maybelline Fit Me powder. I'm only gonna set under my eyes because this foundation looks so beautiful on its own and I wanna see how it wears without powder. So I'm just gonna let that bake for a little bit. Let's move on to our next product, which will be, I believe this, no, this is the eyeliner. So I have this highlighter pen. I actually need to do my brows first, so hold on. I also don't have a brow product from them, so I'm just gonna use, just tried to brush my brows with that end. I'm gonna use the Kosas Brow Pop. I've actually been using the shade Soft Brown. So let's move on to this, which is an eyeshadow, and there's also blush in here. So this is one of their customizable palettes. It's the bigger size. It comes in this really nice case. And then here is the packaging. And then these are the shades that they sent me, which is definitely right up my alley. I feel like the shade selection with everything from the foundation to this has been really great so far, which is I appreciate when I get sent products. It's like, they know what's up. So we're gonna go ahead and try this blush. I will have to go ahead and link the name of this one because I'm not sure. I'd have to pop this color out. I'm just gonna take this small brush, really nice mirror in here. Not sure how pigmented this is gonna be. It's pretty glowy as well. It's this really gorgeous baby pink. I love a shimmery blush. That is such a gorgeous shade. Definitely very glowy, especially on top of that highlighter. This blush has a very fine shimmer in it though. That is so pretty. It's really subtle. Definitely the perfect shade for my skin tone. Like I could layer it up and it's still not too much. I'm gonna do a little bit on my nose too, which I don't usually do, but the shade is so pretty. Well, love that. I don't have a bronzer, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw a little bit of bronzer on. This is from Chantecaille. This is the Real Bronze in the lighter shade. I'm just gonna use a fluffier brush, blend that in. Skin looks so good. I feel like I don't need a ton of extra base product. Just want a little bit of color though. So next is the eyeshadows in here. So we have 4 different ones. I will go ahead and swatch them separately so you can hopefully see the shades a bit better. So this first one is like, it looks white, but it's sort of a translucent pink, glitter-ish type of shade. So there's the 4 shades there. These are gonna be a little bit hard to see on my skin, but they are more of a sheer shimmer formula, but these bottom 2 really pack pigment. These all have some type of shimmer in them, by the way. But these mattes, like they're shimmery, but they're very smooth and airbrush looking. So I'm very excited to put them on. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with this light purple. Oh my God, that's pigmented. Trying new eyeshadows sometimes is scary because I don't know how much pigment to expect. I mean, basically blended itself. It's a really pretty purple lavender, but it's not too cool toned or too warm toned. Definitely gonna keep it a little bit more natural. I'm just going back into that shade. I'm gonna pop this on my lower lash line. Okay, next let me take, let's see, I don't know how dramatic I wanna go. I really like the look of the skin, so I kinda wanna keep that the focus. I'm actually gonna go in with my fingers in this light pink shade, and I'm just going to blend this on the outer half of my eye. I feel like if you wet these, they would be really gorgeous. Or if you did like a white base. And then for the inner corner, I'm actually gonna put a matte white eyeshadow down first. So I put a little bit of white down just so this reflect will really pop. So the shade that looks like it's white is really just like a pinkish glitter shade. Now I feel like I could use a little bit of the darker plum. Just a little bit on the outer corner. So I will say these are kind of the types of eyeshadows that blend away easily, so I would make sure that you do the lid absolutely last, unlike what I did, because I sort of like blended the shades away, but I just went ahead and reapplied them. So next, I think, actually let me do a little bit of shimmer, this white shimmer just on the brow bone. I also have this product from them, which I guess is sort of like an eye brightener. So it has this matte brightening shade, and then on the other end it actually is this powder. Whoa, that's so interesting. It has this like powdered eyeshadow built into this end of it. That's really interesting. We have to try this. So as you can tell, it's a little bit dark for me. Use my hand to blend that out. But now let's take this shimmer. Whoa, that's like such an interesting idea. I wonder how fast that would run out. Oh, the powder is in here. It's so interesting. So my only wish is that this pencil was a little bit lighter because you can just see that it's dark on my eye. But I guess we gotta do the other side. Okay, I used a little bit less over here and I like the look of it. Definitely doing this on the inner corner too. So it's definitely a really interesting idea. I love the idea of it in the shimmer shade, but that pencil's just too like yellow on me. So it's not exactly like doing what I think it would do really nicely on like more, if you have darker skin than me basically. Just did a little bit of matte white over it to see if that helped, which it did a little bit. I wonder if they do have different shades of that. But let us move on because we have an eyeliner to try here, which is, I forget the name of it because I don't have the box, but it's just their thin tip black eyeliner. So this is refillable, by the way. It has a really nice point. I guess we're gonna do some black liner. This is so thin. It's like incredibly thin. So I'm really like, I love brush tips. I don't think I've honestly ever tried one that's this thin. Yeah, I mean, if you want precision, this thing is no joke. So I do like a longer wing. You definitely don't have to do it this dramatic. But now I'm gonna go back into that deep plum and I just wanna smoke this out a little bit. I'm just such a sucker for a smoky liner. So it didn't smudge or flake as I put that powder eyeshadow on top of it. That's a good sign for a liner. So next up, we do also have their mascara to try, which is called their Relevée. I should just stop trying to pronounce these. It's their mascara in black. I'm not gonna curl my lashes just to see how it looks on its own. It has this very skinny brush, by the way. This brush is actually so nice because it gets every little lash. Definitely seems to be more of a lengthening formula, which I prefer over just being, you know, like a voluminizing one. So here it is built up quite a lot. I mean, that looks really pretty. It looks just like my favorite Maybelline one. Worked beautiful on the bottom lashes. It's not too wet, so it doesn't like get everywhere, like clump. It has such a nice texture. I feel like that's building it up really well. I think this actually might be a tubing mascara because as I'm applying it, I'm noticing on the wand there's like little strands and it's making my lashes really long like a tubing mascara would. And it is wet as well, like tubing mascaras are. Really interesting. This one's getting a lot more messy. I'm definitely gonna have to let that dry before I clean it up, but the lash look is, I'm loving it. It's so dramatic and pretty. I think it's definitely a tubing mascara because it's giving me so much length and separation and thickness. Last but not least, we have some of their lip products here. These are their lip sleeks. I have two shades, Nude de Soleil and Heaven. So the Heaven shade is more of a pink, neutral pink. Looks super gorgeous, like this rosy shade. And then I'm guessing this one's more nude. So these have that like twist up component, but if you twist it like too far, it won't go back down. So just be aware of that. It's a really, this reminds me of Victoria Beckham's Spice shade. It's like this very ginger nude. I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit of lip liner. And let's try on this shade, which is the Heaven one. They're really smooth and creamy. That is like basically my lip shade. I mean, that's gorgeous. Usually these types of like lipsticks in this packaging, they're way too liquidy. Not liquidy, like creamy, and they kind of melt too much. I feel like this one's melting just enough. Love that shade. Let's try to put this nude one just on the center. That's gorgeous. These feel super like luxe and beautiful. So now let's finish everything up with this setting mist. I will say, not setting the foundation. I think that primer is definitely more mattifying because my skin is feeling a little bit like on the drier side. So we're gonna go ahead and use this mist. Here is our finished look. I'm honestly so amazed by so many of these products. I really can't stop looking at the skin and how gorgeous it looks. So let me run through everything and give you my final opinions. I will for sure let you know in the comments below how this wore. So if you're curious about the foundation, check below. But I guess starting with the mist, it was really nice. I actually like how it looks over this foundation because it did definitely add a good amount of moisture. Like it just amped up that glow even more. So this was nice both under and over makeup. This primer was such an interesting texture. I do feel like it is a bit more mattifying. I'll have to play around with it a little bit more. Maybe just use it in the T-zone, see how that works. But I do love this one. Beautiful with the foundation as well. Like it didn't end up looking weird. And that moves us on to the Dewdrop foundation, which I am loving the look of. I hope this wears well. I just have to look at it again. yeah, like even unset, it's looking so smooth, which I never do, by the way. You know, I always set my foundations. The shade also is not seeming to oxidize, which is another plus. This has very high hopes. Hopefully it ends up wearing well. If you tried this, I'd love to know what you think of it. Maybe it's a staple for you. The one thing is like the packaging just isn't the easiest to use in terms of like accessibility. Could be a little bit better, but shade formula, it's beautiful. I can't wait to see if it wears well. Next up we have this, which is such a cool idea that it has the powder in one end and like the eyeliner in the other. My one con with this is just the shade. I love the idea of it. I love the little powder. I love the powdered shade because it's just like a white, very shimmery shadow, and it's so cool to have something to stick to. Maybe I just used a little bit too much. If I went a little bit lighter, it might be more doable. It's just showing up slightly darker on my skin. If they have more shades of this, it could be a possibility. Hopefully they do, or maybe they'll come out with more in the future. And then we also have the custom palette here. These were pretty. They're very soft and blendable. I wouldn't expect them to be very pigmented, like super pigmented, but I do think they have enough pigment to be pretty. I think they're very consumer friendly because they just kind of blend themselves and they're easy to use. They're not too pigmented where you just have to like sit there blending. They kind of blend themselves. Love this color palette. This blush, it's so pretty. It's really helping the glow, and I'm just loving this baby pink like purpley shade. It's gorgeous. And that made me remember, I almost forgot the highlighter stick. So this gold shade I didn't think I was gonna love, but honestly it was really pretty with the sponge. I might go for like a pink shade next time, but the formula was really nice. It does have a slightly chunkier shimmer in it. So I think if you like an extremely natural finish highlight, this might not be your favorite, but I really like the formula, how it's not super dewy, and it was really nice, surprisingly. And then we have this eyeliner. This was great. I'm not sure how it's gonna wear. It seems like it's gonna wear amazingly because I did that shadow over it. Like, it's not smudging. It is so extremely thin. I mean, I've tried the KVD one. Like, all the brush tip eyeliners are out there. They have some very thin ones. This one is super duper thin. If you love precision, it might be worth it. This is also refillable, by the way. And then we have the mascara, which is getting a thumbs up so far for the look of it. It's gorgeous. It's separating. Gives more of a feathery look. This is like my favorite type of lash look from this mascara. It's definitely one that I prefer. If it wears well, this will also be a thumbs up. I will have to update you. It's just gorgeous. It built up so beautifully. Like, it didn't get too chunky, and it just like gave the drama for the lashes that I was looking for. And then we have these lip slicks. These are gorgeous too. I think overwhelmingly there's just so many beautiful shades from this brand. They just picked these out and sent them to me. Like, I'll have to go on their site and see what other kind of shade combinations they have. They're truly gorgeous. I feel like they're so flattering, and like especially the foundation shade, these lip shades, everything was really flattering for my skin tone, which can be sometimes really hard to find. I love this formula. It's definitely one of my favorite formulas in this type of like lip formula that I've tried. Like, it's not too melty like I mentioned. Like, it's perfectly melty enough to get it out, but it's not like slipping and sliding. I don't feel like it's gonna sort of like run out of my lip line or anything. There was honestly so many beautiful products that I tried here today that I was not expecting. It was so fun to do this first impressions and just discover a lot of new makeup from this brand. As I mentioned before, if you do already have any favorites from the brand, let me know below. I would love to try them out if it's something that I haven't tried here today. But thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I would love for you to join me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.